folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome back to the History of the Dice Tower. Is anyone still watching this? Well, it doesn't matter. Now we're getting to a year where my life really changed, and that is 2012. It seems like every year something major has changed at that point in the year, but in 2012, I remember starting the year off, and remember 2011, Jack had died, and a lot of things had changed, and I really jumped into the Dice Tower and worked as hard as I could, looking at making it perhaps a full-time job, kind of. That was like a dream, right? Just maybe having fun with it. But as time went by, I was getting more and more dissatisfied with school, teaching at school. I always loved teaching. Teaching was a great thing. I still think teaching is fantastic. But I was getting discouraged with all the paperwork and the bureaucracy and everything that was going on. And I just wanted to spend more time doing the reviews. But is this even possible? Well, for a while, I kind of put it out of my head. Meanwhile, another opportunity presented itself. And that was what was Kickstarter. I talked about Kickstarter last time. Kickstarter had become a big thing. Well, my first Kickstarter preview was Dark Horse, and they paid me some piddly amount, but I did a paid preview, and I started doing a few paid previews as time went by. And I was like, oh, this is a way to get some income for the Dice Tower. And because I was a little frustrated with everything else going on, I felt like life was very full. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to either pull back from the Dice Tower and really cut down time on this because it's taking away from the family a little bit, or I'm going to go full-time Dice Tower. But is that possible? I mentioned this to my wife, and she was like, I don't know. I said, well, let me think about it. Meanwhile, this time, me and Steve Avery were still playtesting the game that we had designed together, Capo, and we finally came up with a name for it, Nothing Personal, after some time. And when I was at TotalCon, we got invited back, yay! I showed it off to different publishers, and one of the publishers I showed it to was Dan Yarrington from Game Salute. He was interested in it. In fact, several publishers told me they were interested in the game, which made me feel pretty good, like, hey, these different publishers would like this game. I felt good about that. And for a moment, me and Steve had actually just thought about, should we kickstart it on our own? Now, if I could go back in time, I'd be like, whoosh, do not kickstart it on your own, Vasel. But at the time, I thought about it, and I was like, no, I don't really want to be a publisher. It was a wise choice to not kickstart it. So we went with Game Salute, and they started working on the game, and the game was not going to be published until the following year, 2013, but we started working on that. And at the same time, I was working with my game group. So when I showed up into Miami, the Miami area, there was a game group involved. This game group was around a store, Sunshine Adventure Gaming Store. This was not a good gaming store. And unless you think I'm casting shade on a current store, this store is out of business, it's gone. But at the time, it was really the only store that was around. And there were complaints about this store all the time. In fact, we started meeting at another place on different times. We started meeting at on the Miami College campus. And I remember one time I said, all right, let's all get together and let's talk about this. And we did, and it turned into a big complaint section about the store. And finally we said, listen, let's just start our own game group. Let's look for other places to game and things. So we picked a committee of people, which I was on, and that committee got together, and it took us like the first meeting just to come up with a name for the game group, which we never followed through on. I think it was Hurricane Gamers or whatever. You know, we never followed through on that, and that kind of fiddled away. But one of the reasons I was doing this, I was like, hey, let's start a little game convention here in Miami. And as time went by, the game convention, we were having a hard time figuring out what to do, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm going to do the Dice Tower convention here in Miami. And someone said, well, there's this guy starting a game convention in Orlando. Maybe you should talk to him. So I emailed Patrick Havert, and he said, yeah, I'm starting this game convention up here. And I said, hey, you want to join forces? I don't really want to do all the logistical stuff, but I'd love to do some sort of convention. And he said, sure. And I said, okay, just so you know, I'm going to call it Dice Tower Con for fun. And the next thing I knew, it was actually called Dice Tower Convention. And that was exciting. Hey, a convention, it was a small convention. We put out the word. People say, oh, we're going to show up. Not a lot of people, but people showing up to come and play games with us. And this was also the first time that we ran into Cool Stuff. Cool Stuff was based in Orlando, Florida, and we met them there because they were selling games at the convention. You could go into, there was a hotel room that you went into, and that was the store for Cool Stuff. And so people went and did that, and I met Cool Stuff, and they said, would you like to work with us? And I said, well, I have a really good relationship with Fun Again, but Fun Again's not really paying me any money. We just get free games from them once in a while, and Cool Stuff said, well, we'll make a better deal with you, and they told me, I told Fun Again said, we'll do that. So I said, all right, sorry, Cool Stuff, but I really like Fun Again, and I don't like leaving people. You know, I like working with people, so we kept working with Fun Again at this time. So this was exciting. We had this convention coming up in July, and this was a new thing for the Dice Tower. And I was doing Kickstarter previews, so I said, all right, let me do these numbers here. I can do Kickstarter previews. I talked to GameSloot and said, is there something I can do for you? I emailed different people all over the place, said, is there ways that you can make money on your own? Maybe I can write articles for magazines. Maybe I can do this. The YouTube is bringing in like $50, $100 a month. You know, maybe that will work or whatever. And so I put all these numbers together. I said, Laura, I think we could do this. If we tighten the belt, it's going to be tough, but I think we can pull it off. I'm still working part-time for the church as a youth pastor there. So if that's okay, we can do this. And she said, if that's what will make you happy, I'm okay with it. What a nice lady. And so I had to announce early because in school, they need to know quickly if you're going to be coming back to teach the following year so you can find another one. So I announced it both to the school and to the public. Well, the public support was overwhelming. I said, you know, one of the things, if you like it, maybe you might want to buy one of our little dice towers or donate to the show. And some people donate, and I said, okay, that's not a ton, but we'll make it work. The school was less enthusiastic about me leaving, but that is what it was. I said, Sam, I'm leaving, sorry. Have fun teaching here. Maybe someday when the Dice Tower is big, I'll be able to hire other people, but I doubt that. Maybe I'll be back crawling here in a year working for the school. And so I announced this full time, and then right around the same time that I announced I was going full time, an event came that changed board gaming videos, and that was Tabletop Show. Will Wheaton. The first tabletop show was Small World. It was March 30th, 2012, and it was huge. Now you might say, were you jealous of tabletop? Well, a little. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting those millions of views, but the fact is that millions of views, hundreds of thousands of people watched Tabletop, and they did a whole series throughout 2012 into 2013 and 14 and such. And those people, they watched them, and there was only a few shows, right? So they said, oh, I need to find more about board games. And you can see a direct correlation between that and the Dice Tower channel going up in views. So there's all that going on. Also, I decided to start Dice Tower News. I started a weekly show. I said, okay, I'm going full time. What am I going to do? I can get a lot more reviews done. I have so much free time. And now I'm going to get these reviews done. I'm going to get a lot more reviews. And I did get a lot more reviews done, but I need to do other things. So I started a weekly show basically called Dice Tower News, where on Dice Tower News, I just talked about the news of the week and things that were going on this week. This show is the show that would eventually morph into Board Game Breakfast. And I also was working part-time for GameSloot, working for the Game Bugle, their news site. So I would hunt down news articles and find things and put them up on that site and working with them. And I also started another little podcast called Showdown that I think I recorded one episode of with somebody where they would argue with me about one of the games I liked or didn't like. And I thought that'd be interesting, but it didn't click. I started another podcast called Dice Steeple about Christians and board gaming. And that one did go well. That was with Sam Healy and Mark Jackson, but it was very intermittent and it kind of faded for a while. And just a few years ago, I handed the reins of that over to Dan King and Sam Healy, and now they're running it fine. But I was like running around, what else can I do? I need to do more video shows. So I started another show called Gaming Potpourri with V and Z. Welcome to the first episode of a new show that we're starting that we will do monthly. And this is a potpourri show where we're just going to talk about games and any games that we feel like talking. Except the only requirement that we have is that we both know them. You might know me, I'm Tom Vasel. Of course, if you watch the other 1,500 videos on this channel.
And you probably don't know me because I haven't done any videos. My name is Z. How you folks doing?
Z is from South Florida and is been here a long time. See, I had Z Garcia. He had shown up in an earlier video, and he was funny. I met Z. He was fun to game with. He was knowledgeable about games. When you talk to Z, he knows about games. He stays up to date with all the different things going on. Was fun, and he had such a good camera presence. I mean, was teaching drama at the time, and so I thought bringing him on, this would be an exciting thing. And it was. The name was dumb. All right, Gaming Potpourri with V and Z. Who thought that one up? But having him on the show brought yet another local person that I could interact with. I was already interacting with Sam on Miami Dice and Melody, and now having Z gave me another person. And I was also super excited because we passed 10 million views on the channel in 2012. We're at 138 as of me recording this. So, but at the time I was like, this is phenomenal. 10 million views. We were only getting 400,000 views a month, which again, it was really iffy for me to step out full time with, but we did it. Well, also during this time, my wife got pregnant again, and this time it was a daughter. We named her Sunny. And that was exciting because, you know, after Jack, everyone in the Vasel family was anxious to see a baby. Sunny passed away 2 months before she was supposed to be born. I mean, my wife has had miscarriages before, but this one felt even more real because Sunny was about to be born. Sunny, in fact, died around the same age that Jack was when he was born. And so this was a little, you know, another devastating thing to the family. Again, the gaming community was very supportive of this. And I said, all right, we're just going to keep going here. And what else can we do? What can we do to keep things moving with the Dice Tower? I got to stay solvent. I got to keep this going so I can take this as my dream job. I never expected this to become a full-time job, but what can I do? There was a show that started around this time called The Boardroomers, which was a bunch of smaller publishers and different people in the gaming industry, and they would argue about different policies. I came on for a show there. It was not actually a super fun experience. You can go hunt down the different things online about it. But it gave me this idea of people talking back and forth live. And I thought, oh, this live thing, how does this work? We also did our top 100 again of all time. And this time I had Z help me out with the People's Choice. Again, the reaction to him was so good that I figured I would bring him on. And in fact, I did an introduction to the Dice Tower video here, which is still possibly my favorite video we've ever done for the Dice Tower, where we used Z, because he wasn't even well known at that point in time. We used Z and my kids and Eric Simmer's voiceover. We made a really fun video that showed kind of a fake Dice Tower. And it didn't get watched that often because it was like in the middle of a video that was introduction to the top 100, but it was a lot of fun. Nothing Personal went on to Kickstarter during this time frame and did very well. I might not be happy with the numbers in 2018, but in 2012, I thought it did phenomenally well, and I was very excited. It was going to be published sometime in 2013. Some people asked us, are we going to have a seal of approval? And I said, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we should make a Dice Tower seal of approval. And so I asked my webmaster at the time, Rob Searing, to see, he said he could design stuff like that, if he could put one together. And finally, I had missed Origins because of that date change, but I didn't miss Gen Con. I was able to go to Gen Con. And I also had a chance to go to Board Game Geek Con for the first time. So I had my own little convention, Dice Tower Con, and Board Game Geek Con, and that was really exciting. And at Board Game Geek Con, I remember distinctly that year, I put on a show there. And it was a live show where we had 30 guests on. I said, you have 2 minutes each. Come on, talk for 2 minutes, then the next person, 2 minutes. And it was an interesting idea, and what it did was I thought, I want to do something different. This started the idea of us going to conventions and taking each convention and making the show that we did at that convention different than other ones, tuning it toward that convention. And I've still tried to do that, where I'm going to have different things at conventions. We also started at DicetowerAudio.com, where I started putting some of the audio for the videos that we did, and the show was growing more. Now, I was pretty happy with where we were at. We were surviving. It was not easy. You know, my wife and I sometimes like, where is the money going to come from this month? But we made it work, but barely. But I was looking for something else to do where we could make it so that I didn't have to like sit around every month and worry and scrape for money. And the answer for that actually came from something I'd already been working with, and that is Kickstarter. We'll talk about that next time. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the History of the Dice Tower.